The ice-cold rain seems endless. We've entered into another year, and our family were once again in the storm. I was now 17, and on the one hand, thriving. Sixth form had begun, and I had found my feet. Now, I say this because it is something that I felt helped me discover, me again. You see, I feel like, and you may feel the same, but when death comes and takes the person you love, the person your family, your friends love from you and from them, it also takes away a part of you, and a part of you goes with them. And it's cliche, but it's true, because it leaves you feeling lost. And I was no exception to this. I felt incredibly lost. After the 5 funerals by this point I had already been to, and my family had been to. And as I said before, my parents had been to a fair few before that as well. One thing, though, that I can reflect on now is that I had a fantastic support network around me, and that I still have around me. And I suppose that's another reflection that we've come to, is that not everybody has that, but it's really important to try and find that. And when you're going through grief, you need that support network. Now, that support network doesn't have to be your family that are related to you, because not everybody has that in their lives. It might be friends, it might be co-workers that you become close to. There's also plenty of charities out there and helplines that can help you navigate this period when you're going through grief. And even though I had that support network, I still felt lost. And that's another reflection, I suppose. And I know that I'm doing these reflections a lot, but I think they're important, that you have your support network around you and you're navigating this grief that you're feeling, but you're still allowed to feel lost, and you still will feel lost. And that's okay. I found my tribe. So sixth form was my saving grace. And some of these friends I had known since primary school and still are friends with now. And some of them I had become close to in sixth form and are still friends with now. Now, we weren't popular by any means, but it didn't matter, and I didn't care, because I started to gain back that self-love, that unapologetic version of me that I'd lost through all those periods of loss. Parts of me were taken each time. But as I said at the start of this chapter, the storm wasn't far off. It was building on the horizon, out of our minds, out of our sight of vision for our family, and soon enough we were engulfed. The ice cold rain was swirling around, hitting our skin, and we were once again in the grip of grief. You see, at this point, we had another pilgrimage scheduled to Lourdes with the disabilities group, to my home away from home. And just like before, we were going to give someone their last trip. And just like before, my parents and their friends had to arrange the logistics of this trip for all those people that had different needs, along with now their teenage children, whilst also knowing that a member of the community that had been built for so many years was going to be taken from us so soon. And it felt soon, and it felt cruel. And I suppose this brings me to a reflection again. You see, when others are with you on this trauma journey, when they go with you to these start again. You see, when others are with you on a trip like this, other people that are close to the person that we all know will be taken from us, it feels heavier. It feels more intense because you feel like you are also feeling everybody else's grief around you. And grief is intense anyway. Grief is this big ball of stormy energy that is inside of you and that just is blowing an absolute gale. But when you're also around people that are in that grief, you're also feeling that intensity. And this trip was no different. And though I said before this person was taken from us too soon, I don't mean in the sense of their age. They were elderly, but yet they still should have had more time. And that's why it felt like too soon. And I suppose this person was also taken from a disease. Start that again. And this person was also taken in, I feel, a very cruel way. And I started to understand and realize by this point, as I've become older and I started to navigate more, that actually, and I had a feeling of this, that maybe as time went on, I would see more people be taken in a way that seemed really cruel and quick and sudden. But this particular pilgrimage gave me again a sense of that final moment that felt joyful at the same time. Like I was speaking on my chapter earlier, the one previous to this, that, you know, how can there be joy when you're talking about grief? But there was this moment of joy, or this moment of laughter that I shared with this person on this last pilgrimage that stays with me and that helped me through many griefs to come, because it gave me a nice memory to think of. This particular individual at this point was in a wheelchair a lot of the time. And I remember pushing this individual in the wheelchair and it was chucking it down with rain. Lord's is notorious for the weather being very up and down. And at this point we were going down this street with the group and it was chucking it down with rain. And the person in the chair wasn't getting aggravated or angry. They were laughing and they were smiling. And in this moment, I was smiling too. I was given a memory by them. And then what was even more humbling to me was that during this, there was an act of kindness. A passing nun gave, and I'm sure it was a nun, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was a nun, gave this individual their umbrella to keep them dry. And this person was a bit confused by this and tried to give it back. And when I explained what the nun was doing, he was moved. I could see he was moved. And he was still smiling. And that memory will stay with me. Will stay with me for a long time. So that pilgrimage gave another source of joy. And we came back from that pilgrimage And I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong on this, but I'm sure it was not long afterwards that that person passed away. So again, we, of course, as a family and as the network around us, went to the funeral to pay respects, to celebrate the life of this person. But as before, for me, when I was in there and in the church, I didn't see just the one coffin. Before that coffin came down, I saw 5 more. And this was, for me, the real start of finding, putting on a suit, a black suit, and going to these services, really overwhelming. And it was the start of me putting on these suits and feeling panicky, having a bit of a panic attack, feeling so anxious, because I knew that when I was in these services, I wasn't just going to see the one coffin. Like I said, I was going to see several. And I'd be reliving each one all over again constantly whilst I was in this service. And then not long after that, we had another person close to us pass. A parent from... Start that again. And after that, we had another person close to us all pass. And this was a parent of some members of the group who passed away. And this was one of the very few deaths that I remember being peaceful, in terms of they just naturally died. They got to a certain age and they just naturally died, from what I can remember. Which was very rare for me and for those around me. But for this particular individual as well, it was the first time I went to a cremation. It was the first time I experienced that, because all the times before was the traditional burials. And when you're in the cremation, it's very different, and I suppose, in my opinion, harder. And a reflection again on this is, to give yourself kindness in abundance when you're going through this grief. And this will come up several times in this audiobook, but it will be so important to remember that. And with this of the period of grief, it all linked back again in my mind to Barbara, to that first one, because again, when I was in this service, it wasn't just the one coffin. We were now on to 6 or 7. So by this point, I was 17 years old. And I'd almost become used to and expected somebody else to go, somebody else to die. I almost expected that. And I was right. There would be more. But by this point, what I was starting to see and what I was starting to reflect on is, though it was incredibly painful, we were losing these people, and it was confusing and it didn't make sense and it was raw and so painful, it helped me to start to reflect on how grateful I was to have these people. And I started to smile occasionally when I thought of the people that we had in our lives and how they made a difference. And that's another key reflection for the end of this chapter that I want to reflect on, is that having those moments where you are smiling because you are thinking, I'm so grateful I had this person, even if they've not long passed, is okay to do as well. There is no set way to grieve. There is no set book on how to do it. And even though I'm doing this audiobook, it is not a way of saying this is how it should be. It is me sharing my experience to hopefully give somebody a little bit of light and a little bit of comfort. Because I didn't have that sort of reflection tool to go to. I had an incredible support network, and I still have an incredible support network. One that I'm incredibly grateful for, that if they're listening to this audiobook, I'm hoping they are, that they are able to hear how lucky I am that I have them. But I didn't have a reflection in terms of something to go to just go, somebody else gets it outside of my circle. Because actually sometimes as well, when you're in that circle around you, you want to break out of it a little bit and talk to somebody that maybe is not in that circle as much. And I know I've gone off topic here a bit because I was on the reflection. I'll go back to that now. But you are in no way wrong to have those moments when you've lost somebody, even if it's not long afterwards, where you have a bit of a smile and you go, I'm so grateful that I had them. I'm so grateful I had them in my life, and talk about that. And sometimes maybe think about them and laugh, because there's a certain memory that makes you laugh. You're allowed to do that when you grieve. As long as you're not hurting yourself or anyone else around you, your grief is your grief and your journey is your journey. So I was into my journey now, well into my journey at the age of 17. And in the next chapter, you'll find out what happens when I hit the age of 18 and 19. And 18 is a really crucial year. I think 18 is one of those milestones, isn't it? Your 18th birthday, you hit 18, you're seen as an adult a little bit. You know, you were at that age. And at 18 and 19, two more people were taken. And I was connected to both of them in very different ways. So I'm hoping you're still sticking with me on this journey. I'm hoping you're taking time to look after yourself. And if you need to pause this at points and have a drink, have a cup of tea, have a break, have a walk around, have a cry. But if you would, stick with me, because we've got more journey to take. Though there will be light in this journey still as well, I'll be keeping that going.